Hello, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's episode, we're going to be going over parts 4 through 6 of The Student's Tale. Now, let's see if the wife can learn through all these adversities, pass these tests, and will she end up with her husband again? Or not? Alright, let's dig right into this and finish up this classic tale, shall we? Part 4 begins with the narrator telling the audience that the king and his wife had a son. And when the son was 2 years old, the king wanted to test his wife's patience again, and her loyalty. He told the same sergeant before to take away the son to Bologna to be with the daughter. The sergeant agreed and went in to take away the queen's son. Similar to the daughter, the queen blesses and kisses the child and watches the sergeant take him away. After the king has the son taken away, rumor spreads through the town that the king is a murderer, for the townspeople believed that he had murdered the past 2 children the queen has had, and the townspeople believe the queen is fully virtuous and suffering these ill fates. When the daughter is 12 and the son is 7, the king decides to put the wife through one last final trial. The last trial was to have a counterfeit pope's bull, which would allow the king to remarry another woman, basically having them divorced. The king calls upon his sister in Bologna to bring the daughter and son back to the castle for the wedding. This is where part 4 ends. Part 5 starts out with the king coming to his wife and saying that he assumed to take a new wife. He tells her that the townspeople and Pope agree that she no longer should be queen and that he should be married to someone who is more fit. She tells him that she agrees and actually understands his decision. She says that when he found her, she was but in a lowly place and very poor and not on the same level, and that he was so kind and so understanding, and that's why he's making his decision. She then tells him that she still loves him even though he's making this choice. She also tells him that she will leave this day and ask the king for some sort of lowly dress that she may exit the castle in. She says that on the day that they were wedded, he had her stripped at her old residence of her clothes and dressed her fresh and new for the wedding. She would like to make sure that all of the nice clothes and jewelry she had stayed at the castle, and that she was sent home in something more akin than her previous life. The king agrees, and she derobes and wraps herself in his smock around her and exits the castle. A lot of the townspeople follow her back to her father's dwellings. The father comes rushing out immediately because he always had the suspicion that this marriage wouldn't last. He was going to send her back. The narrator notes that on her walk home, her eyes were dry of tears, but she did not feel any remorse. The narrator ends part 5 by saying that most scholars will write a job in trials that he'd been through, but he says that men should not neglect women in their struggles that they go through, for sometimes they are harder than many of men's challenges. This is where part 5 ends. Part 6 begins with the king calling Griselda back to the castle. She stands before him, and he tells her that he does not like the way the castle looks for the new marriage, and tells her that because she was his wife, he wants her to decorate and make sure the castle looks nice for the new wedding. She agrees and happily goes about the work. Not long after this, the daughter and son arrive at the castle for the wedding celebration. As most guests are entering, they think the daughter is the king's new wife, and they all begin to get excited and say that this wife looks more like royalty than the previous one, and that the new wife will do a great job. Griselda, who'd been working hard making sure the castle looked nice for the celebration, comes in and gives her condolences to the new wife and the king. Not long before the celebration is to begin, the king calls out to Griselda to come to him at once. He then tells everything about what he's done, how she is still his wife, that the man and woman who are now in the castle are actually her children, and that she bore herself. And when she hears this news, she gets so overwhelmed with excitement and joy that she passes out. The daughter and son and mother all reunite, and she is so happy that there are tears just streaming down her face and under her children's hair. After this, many servant women take her back to the chamber and prepare her with all the beautiful niceties and dresses she once wore. The narrator states that for the rest of their lives, they all lived happily ever after, and that he was a gracious and ruling king until the day he died. The narrator also states their son married an excellent wife as well, though he didn't put her through the same trials. The narrator states that the lessons they should take away from this story are not necessarily that everyone should act like Griselda, for people like that only come once in a blue moon, but that they should take every new challenge or problem that arises with the same humility as Griselda. Lastly, Chaucer has a little note of words of advice that he gives to the audience, that husbands should never try the patience of their wives like in this story, because they will surely fail. He then tells all wives they should shut their tongues like Griselda because they shouldn't have to suffer trials at whims of their husbands. Instead, they need to make sure that they stand up for themselves when it is true and fair. He also says lastly that everything should be tit for tat in relationships. This is where part 6 and The Student's Tale ends. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great rest of your day. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay lit. Bye.